friends and neighbors. Welcome in the light, where laughter's the answer and hearts are shining bright. With calloused hands and wits, so raise your sharp. Let's praise a place where love ignites the spark.
Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to Sunnyside. Glad you're with us once again. And this week, I've got a very special guest, Dr. John Graham, who is the executive director of something called the Samaritan Home. The Good Samaritan Home, I should say. The Good Samaritan Home. It's out of Ohio, and he has been doing this for almost 25 years. What has he been doing? Well, you're going to find out, and it has a lot to do with what we do as a society, or I guess more importantly, what individuals can do, in this case, to help those who are incarcerated once they've left prison, find a new way to live. And they start by giving them a place to live. And in that time, they find a job, they find different responsibilities, they have safety, they have some counseling, all good things. And it's part of the reform system. At least that's how it's supposed to be, especially when it's faith-based. And that's what the Good Samaritan Home does and has done and continues to do. You're going to love this guy. He's got quite a tale to tell, and in fact, he's not only telling his own tale, he's also written a book that I think you're going to enjoy, should you take a look at it and read it. And that's all going to be included in this great conversation that I just had with Dr. John Graham. And I can't wait for you to meet him. So, let's jump into it. All right, so welcome to Sunnyside, Dr. John Graham. Hi, how are you? Welcome to Sunnyside.
It's a sunny afternoon here. I'm in Texas right now. It feels, it doesn't feel like winter. It feels like it's just a crystal clear sunny afternoon. So, and all that to say, I'm glad to be on the sunny side.
Yes. Well, I'm glad to have you on the sunny side of life. Sunnyside is how we try to look at things, and we want to talk to people just like you that have worked so hard and diligently and with love and compassion, pursuing interests that help become the sunny side of many other people's lives. And boy, I mean, you got to say your resume certainly has done that. How many people? Let's start right there, because you're approaching 25 years since 2001 for the Good Samaritan Home, and your first one was in 2001. And so, how many people since then? And then we'll get into the details. You know how we got there. But how many people do you think you've helped?
Of course, help is a different definition depending on the person. But I'd say overall, the rough count is about 2,500 men and women have passed through one of our homes.
2,500. I mean, that's a small town.
Yeah, actually it is. The town we started in it's just northwest of Dayton, Ohio, and it has 13,000 people. But most of our work is in Dayton itself, which is a small metropolis.
Yes, yeah.
And post-automobile industry, you get the picture.
Yes. And the part that astounded me just right off the bat, looking at your bio, was that in 2001, you and your wife, Kathy, right? Yep. And
right.
The two of you decided to take in. Was it a homeless person, or was it He was a man coming from prison. Okay.
That the chaplain asked me if I'd take him in, because we had started a homeless shelter in our own house because we had no money, of course, and we remodeled this old Victorian.
Yes.
And while we lived in it, and he was referred to us, and the state. Would at the time there was no compensation. We did that simply as part of our shelter program, and that led to other issues, other openings, one resident at a time.
All right, so let's walk it back a little bit here. You say you were housing. This was part of your mission, and your program. So where was that, and or how did that get started, or what was that a part of?
Well, when you say mission, it makes it sound like a noble cause, but I think it's better to go back to my life motto,
Okay.
because every time I fail, and I call them detours, but my motto was I've been thrown out of better bars than this one, and I kept moving on. And but I made a lot of career moves that were not good decisions. Like I was uh, coming out of the '60s and '70s, we were extremely adventuresome, and some of those adventures weren't necessarily good. And so I was a children's home counselor. I was a fireman. I was a truck driver. I was a building contractor. I was a journalist. And then eventually I became a minister, thinking that I could do some good within the community.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept reaching out to the people on the street because I had been homeless in my own past. And but the church, I have to be very careful. The church was not open necessarily to those people,
Mm-hmm.
because we all tend to react to people who are not like us, whether economic or racial. But there's always this fear of outsiders, and the church is just as guilty as any other organization. And so I was not, in that respect, I was not a good pastor. So Kathy and I, my wife, said, we're going to do this on our own, because we were let go, thrown out of that bar.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had no money, and we bought this old Victorian, 140 years old, and said, I'll fix it up in 3 months. Well, it took me 14 years. In fact, at one point for Christmas, I bought my wife a table saw. So that tells you how we lived.
Yes. Oh, I understand
But
completely.
she stuck with me. She stuck with me. And we used this as a shelter. And the chaplain I had been volunteering with said, "Can you take this guy?" And he was coming from Cleveland, which is across the state. He was black. Our community was white. There was a lot of concern that we were bringing in those people.
Mm.
I know everybody meant criminal element, but under everything in our culture is always a racial element.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth was that Reggie was his name. He was as afraid of the white community as they were of him.
Yeah.
But here's the best part. 25 years later, Reggie calls me up and says, I just want to let you know I'm married, I got kids, and I just read your book, and I just want to tell you I'm doing fine, and I just want to touch base with you. So he is what I call a genuine success story. And there were a lot of men like that. But Reggie was there when we had a lot of opposition from the community. And what we had to do was not just tell people about our program, we had to show them that it was safe. And we did that by, number one, being a quiet part of the neighborhood, being a clean part of the neighborhood, and mostly even taking a snowblower and cleaning everybody's sidewalk in the winter without saying a word,
Mm.
because nothing speaks louder than good works.
Right.
So, yeah, you can talk all you want about recidivism numbers, and you can talk about data. Nobody gives a damn.
Mm-hmm.
All they know is that I didn't have to clean my sidewalk because some stranger came over and cleaned it for me. And that eventually, we won the neighbors over. I like to say they now wave at us with all their fingers.
There were some tough moments. You must have had it on your heart, though, that I mean, to you talk about being in the ministry and wanting to help, and this was a part of it, and you felt compelled to do that. You didn't get the support that you wanted from maybe from the church at the time, and you already explained perhaps why that is, but you must have had it on your heart that this was because of your own experiences, that this was a need that needed to be filled.
The truth was that I've never been to prison,
Mm-hmm.
but there's not a whole lot that separates me or you from guys in prison. They come from backgrounds where they don't have the tools, they don't have the support, they don't have the training, and they're left alone. And so you often self-medicate. and 60 to 80% of what we deal with are drugs and alcohol issues underneath their crime.
Hmm.
So there, but for the grace of God, go you or I, and maybe we made one choice, one turn different that kept us out of jail. Or maybe we had one person intervene when they didn't. Because invariably, what I find with all the men we deal with, they didn't have a father or a mother, and she may have been dealing
Mm.
or soliciting, and or she may have been your dealer,
Mm.
and you grow up with that norm, and before you know it, that the street and survival is the norm, and so prison is just part of your education. So what we're trying to do is not rehabilitate; we're trying to habilitate.
All
First
right.
time education.
Yeah, because it's in many cases it's brand new. Yeah, that's right.
Well, here's the best part. I could talk all day. I could sit down and say we're going to have a class on how to get a job or something like that. But what I've found is that if I can help somebody, I tell them we need you to make your bed in the morning, because your bed will tell me what's in your head. Because if you're in chaos, your bed will be in chaos. But if you make your bed, what you're saying to yourself is that I'm in control of something in my life. And I may be rejected for a job 6 times today, but when I come back to my bedroom, I'm going to see a clean bed. And I know that I did something right. And it's a small, tangible way to see that maybe I'll make it through another day. And it works. It really does.
I spent a little over a quarter century in the Army National Guard. So
Bingo. That's where it came from.
so making your bed is that's a requirement, and you're right. It gets you started right, and still do it to this day. Obviously, my wife and I, we make the bed, every morning, and it's a little ritual that kind of starts our day to some degree, and try to pass that on to my 4 boys, but they're at varying interests in completing that task. I have another podcast that we do with the local university football program, and we interview players and kind of get to know them. One of the players that was on, that was his advice as well, that they start out, make your bed, and get your day started, and because you've got something done. And I have heard. I think it was an admiral or a vice admiral or something like that in the Navy.
That Navy SEALs.
Yeah, gave a commencement address, and that was his advice as well. And I agree, 100%.
Because there are 10 things that are going to go wrong, and you're going to be rejected, particularly if you got to check the felony box. You are going to be rejected. So what will motivate you to get up and go out and do one more time, one more day? And that's looking at your bed and saying, I did this right. My mother, my grandmother, my girlfriend is not going to be able to fix me. I have to fix me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now you're a part of this. A big part of it is that you are mentoring.
Mentoring is a good word. Word.
Well, it's on your website, so it must be true, right? Mentoring is what you're doing, and how do you do that? Like, when you say mentoring, you mentioned the making the bed part, but starting with Reggie, even there's the first one. What did that look like?
Well, people ask us if we offer programming. I say no, we don't, because we offer housing,
Mm-hmm.
but what we really offer is a listening ear.
Mm.
And my wife is very good at it. For many of these guys, the only good memory they have is their grandmother.
Mm.
And I'm 77, and my wife tells me she's still 25, but I think she's close to my age.
Yeah.
So, but what she does is she says, tell me about your grandmother. And they get to talking. And I see she gets texts all the time from these guys saying, dear Miss Kathy, thank you for this. And I want to talk to you this. Do you need help with that? Because that's mentoring. It's acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
It's listening.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the less I say, the more they hear.
That sounds...
So it's like a sermon. Instead of teaching people, I listen to them, and they think I'm profound, and I didn't say anything.
That's the trick. Oh, I've been doing this wrong as a podcaster for like 4 years. Yeah, it's all talk.
If I get really quiet, people might think I'm brilliant.
There you go. But so, Kath, you mentioned Kathy, and she is a social worker, but she came by that degree and profession later in life.
Oh, wow, that's another story. Wow. Kathy grew up under the nuns, sister ruler,
Okay.
and she was told that she was retarded. And they said, why are we wasting a good education, a good Catholic education on someone who's retarded? So she thought her only goal in life, therefore, was to get married and have babies, because that's what good Catholic girls are good for. And after 5 years, she was divorced. And that devastated her and destroyed her. And so she spent the next 8 years just not knowing what to do until along I came, living in my truck, homeless. And I said, hello, Cassie, what's for dinner? I stopped by her house for a free meal because I was going to California because I knew her. And so we sat and talked and talked and talked. And I said, maybe California is not for me. So I stayed in Detroit. And we dated and dated and dated. We got, like Johnny Cash said, we got married in a fever.
There you go.
And
Hotter than a pepper sprout.
That's exactly right. And so, and then she was with me through all my detours. And then when I got my master's degree and then my doctorate, and she was with me. And she always thought she wasn't smart enough because of the nuns. So I encouraged her to take a class and then another class, and she did and stopped, and because life got in the way, and it took her 28 years, and so many times she wanted to quit, but it was a community college where they specialize in second career adults like Kathy, and she finished her degree after it's a 2-year degree, but it took her 28 years. But she graduated. Here they called her name during the ceremony. They said Kathleen Graham, graduating with honors. She was crying. She had no idea. And to this day, she brags to me saying, I got a degree with honors and you never did. And she's right.
Right.
But she was so pleased. She said, I'm not retarded.
Absolutely.
And that's why she's so good with these guys, because she knows what it's like to be told all your life you're retarded,
Yeah.
or you're stupid, or you're ugly, or you're not good for anything. And it's like one guy said, for the first 5 years of my life, I thought my name was asshole. But that's all he knew.
Yeah.
Abuse was commonplace in some houses.
A good personal editing method, in my experience, is, would you do that or say that in front of your grandmother?
Wow.
But that really kind of reins you in most cases, not always, but in most cases. And I guess it depends on what kind of grandma you had. But when you talk about these guys opening up because they can talk about their grandmother, that makes a lot of sense to me. And it probably opens them up to, I don't know if change is the right word, but considering a different way and reconsidering the opportunities that they could have if they had the desire to do so. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely, because in general, most of the people we deal with have made impulse decisions. I want something now, and they don't think through the consequences. I just saw a piece on the news about people who were facing homelessness, so they made commitments to buy what they call extended living apartments, which were nothing more than motels, and they ended up paying more than an apartment because they made impulse decisions that cost them. And so the people we deal with did something impulsively. So like leaving our house, saying, I don't care, I want to go out. Nobody can tell me I have to come in at 10 o'clock. And so we had one guy, he was upset about a girlfriend or a car or something like that, and he wanted to leave. my manager said, just sit down. Let's just think about it. Just take a breather. And he talked him back just by saying, just calm down. And the guy stayed.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, he would have lost his housing, probably been arrested for a parole violation,
Mm-hmm.
and he would have been back behind that 8 ball. And that's what I consider the role of a mentor, is to just encourage somebody to just think through a decision.
Right. Take a breath, calm down. Let's talk about this. Let me hear what you have to say. Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. And you when you started this, you mentioned a chaplain. So you were working with, was that a prison chaplain, or what type of chaplain?
Yeah, I was. We had the shelter, and there was Ohio. Ohio's a red state, but it's surprisingly progressive when it comes to reform, prison reform. And they developed a plan about 25 years ago. They found through Xavier University that the greatest immediate need is housing. If we can establish housing, then somebody can get a job. And then if they get a job, they can pay their bills, they can pay child support, they can get off of food stamps,
Mm-hmm.
or they can pay rent, buy food. But if they're in prison, it's going to cost you and me, the taxpayers, $109 a day all year long. And before you know it, with recidivism at 50% or more, we're talking about millions of dollars
Mm-hmm.
instead of them becoming taxpayers. So we became the housing component, and we partner with others who do the job training or the job social work element. We're simply the more of I'd say it's more of a family approach, where we're here to help you. I'm not a parole officer. I'm not here to punish you, but we do have rules,
Mm-hmm.
and we hold you to those rules, like a curfew and or housekeeping. Yeah, what do you do in a family? You're responsible to clean up after yourself, and you don't bring girls into the house. You don't bring drugs into the house. You don't come in with alcohol. That's basic respect for one another.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And so that's that you started doing that in 2001
Right.
in that Victorian home that you were set to remodel for uh,
3 months.
yeah, 14 years or whatever. And I did see you have pictures on your website, and that's quite impressive. The transition. I mean, it really did. You must have found that, because now how many in all of the homes that you have established with the with Good Samaritan. I mean, that did you do the work yourself too? I mean, you had contracting experience. Must have come in handy.
Well, I had no money when we started Good Samaritan Home, so I did all the work. And of course, Good Samaritan, the house we were living in, technically was my house,
Mm-hmm.
so I had to pay for it out of pocket. But it was my emotional release. So I milled all my own wood. It has ornate wainscoting. It has I milled the flooring. I learned how to do wet plastering,
You did,
wiring. Oh yeah, wet plastering, because the house is 3 brick thick.
yeah.
It's really old school, and 10-foot ceilings. I learned how to hang wallpaper, excepting for that one day when I hung it upside down. That had to be redone.
Yeah, yeah.
But I learned all those things because I wanted this to be a model. A changed life is a model of a changed house. So they couldn't see my residence, but they could see my house.
Yeah.
And as this house, particularly the colors on the outside, there are, I believe, 7 color schemes, because that's consistent with the Victorian scheme.
Right.
So we start with one color, then another, and then trim. You work your way into different colors, and people will stop on the street and point to it, and that way they see us as a positive part of the community. But when I started expanding, I just couldn't afford to do that kind of work,
Mm-hmm.
because number one, it would get destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So what we tried to do was still do quality, durable work, but not artistic work. And on the next house, I spent 2 years remodeling it, climbing through every nook and cranny.
Mm-hmm.
I spent more time in the attic and the basement than I think I spent anywhere. I found things that I didn't know existed, like things that had been up there for a century. I thought, nothing valuable.
Yeah,
Trust me.
I wish, right? There's always, oh, look,
Yeah,
an original
yeah.
or
I did. Yeah,
a
I
copy of
did
the
find.
Declaration.
Yeah, oh yeah, Thomas who? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. A gold bar. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. With my luck, yeah.
Right.
But it. I think I found an old pack of cigarettes that somebody had tried to smoke once. Probably the renters who had been there before.
Yeah.
But it was, and then what we tried to do as we expanded into Dayton, this was the housing market had gone through the 2008 bust,
Hmm.
and so prices had really declined. So I was able to buy duplexes, particularly in the barrio where we were looking, uh, duplexes for 15, 20, $30,000, and that are today they're worth more than that because the
Hmm.
market improved. But we tried to make them durable and clean and presentable, enough for you and I would live there, but not so ornate that somebody could destroy it.
Right.
Because it's just like with rentals, uh, but we have renters that are more aggressive than normal renters. So
Do they rent, or no, it's part of a
no, there's no
program.
charge, no
Yeah,
charge
right.
at
They
all.
stay there. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, but what we do is we have an agreement,
Hmm.
and but the difference is with the parole officers involved. They are accountable to him. So if you want to leave us, that's fine, but you make sure your parole officer approves
Hmm.
because he's the gatekeeper.
I love that analogy of changing the human life, the remodeling process of the human life, just as remodeling a home. I think that's spot on, phenomenal. I mean, that's what it's about, isn't it? And of course, we've done remodeling here, a lot of remodeling, and I love building and constructing and unnecessarily decorative hen house, which is ridiculous. But the things that we can do, but because it is cathartic. It is a way for me to
Yep.
just one, I want to do something well, and I found that I do things better, particularly in, well, probably everything, but in construction, I do things better if I take my time and not try to hurry through it, and then and try to make it beautiful. It has to be practical, and it should be durable. You want it to last a long time. My dad says I have a tendency to overbuild things, but I said, well, I don't want to have to do it over again or the next generation.
Yep.
And I just think that's marvelous how it has ties to what you're doing with humanity and remodeling as well.
I gave Kathy a Christmas present one. It had a picture of me in my hippie days, and then a picture of me when I was actually wearing, I think, a suit at the time, so I was civilized. And then a picture of our house originally, and our house when it was finished. And the motto was, uh, "A changed, a broken house." Like a broken life can be made new again with enough help from the community and enough work and help from the community. And that's what I was saying is that as she has helped remake my life, we have remade our house. Therefore, we can remake other people's lives by all of us working together.
And it's just and when you do it well, with a human life or the remodeling of a home, just like you said, people stop on the sidewalk and they look at it in admiration and point. And that's what you
Yeah.
want for the individuals that come through Good Samaritan. 2,500. That's just a lot. Yeah.
Well, one thing we did too, Troy, is that so somebody would stay with us for 6 months or a year, uh, but then at the end of their time, they would, particularly if they got a job, they would need to move on because that's healthy.
Hmm.
But some people on Social Security, because of mental health or physical limitations, they're going to make $900 a month. So there's no way they can afford a 600 or 700 or $800 apartment. Or because of their offense, nobody will rent to them.
Mm-hmm.
So we developed something that was off the program. We developed what we call transitional housing for those people who couldn't get rentals. And we bought houses that were specifically, uh, they would have long-term housing in a boarding house type of arrangement. You get a private bedroom, but a shared common area. So 3 bedroom would have 3 residents, like a college fraternity house would be.
Sure.
And then they pay just a fraction. So there's no utility cost. It's fully furnished, and you pay say $300 or $400 a month total. So that meant on Social Security you could afford it.
Mm-hmm.
On minimum wage you could afford it, and then particularly with food stamps, then you're able to have your food. And so now we've grown from 1 or 2 men. I think now we have 35 men. And I think we have, give or take, 5 or 6 houses that are doing that. So that's a long-term idea that some people need extra help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the 35 just in that type of housing.
Just in that type.
Yeah.
Just in that type.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now you had you'd been working with a chaplain from the prison. He made it clear that there was a need for it. You answered the call to that with your own home back in 2001, and then of course continued to build. When did it become Good Samaritan? Was it that from the beginning, or did that kind of grow into something? Its name and everything.
Legally, it's Good Samaritan in the beginning.
Okay.
2001, we incorporated, and then went through IRS, of course. But we stayed mostly as a shelter for several years while we worked through all these legal issues. And in 2007 is when we partnered with the state, and that's when we started doing the 2,500 men. So that's when I started just do this.
Yes. Yeah. And that, of course, led to additional hiring. You've got quite a staff, quite a number of...
and many of our staff have been residents.
Is that right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They make the best ones. We just hired Walter. He had been with us. He was 16 when he went to prison. And he was in prison 9 years. And he came to us when he was, give or take, 26. And he was with us for several years. And then we stayed in contact. And eventually he married and bought a house, which is something nobody in his family had ever done, bought a house. And it was 1 block from us. So okay. He now lives in the same area. He's a neighbor. Yeah. And he said, if you ever need any help, let me know. Mm-hmm. So we hired him part-time at night because he had the day job. And he said that anything I can do to give back. See, that's the sort of story.
Yeah.
He also knows when somebody's trying to pull the wool over his eyes because he's been there.
Yeah, he knows the games. Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
So, so Good Samaritan, of course, is based on the name comes from the Jesus' parable describing the Good Samaritan, that is the one that helped the injured traveler, whereas everyone else passed him over. And so that is it a faith-based organization?
Yes, because I feel that our faith should be lived out in acts of mercy to one another. The church, from my perspective, is very, very ineffective when it tries to preach at the community. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But we are very good at what we do in serving the community. And the truth is, I think the church was absolutely most effective in the civil rights movement, because you saw the church teaching the world how to serve, how to love and forgive. Mm-hmm. And we lost that, of course, when it became Black Power. But for I think, give or take 13 years, under Dr. King's leadership, the church was the church. And in a small way, I've tried to bring that back in what we're doing, but it's not nearly the same, of course.
Right. So, and you mentioned that Ohio is a red state, sometimes purple, whatever you want to call, however you want to do the color scheme.
It used to be purple, but it's pretty red.
But it has you said it has a progressive reform system, which I think is very helpful. And so, is part of the progressive reform beneficial to be in a red state, in the sense that it's a lot easier to partner with a faith organization for this type of task than maybe if it was predominantly progressive. Sometimes progressive states are not that interested in anything that the churches are doing.
Excellent point. Excellent point, because sometimes people accuse us of having a hug-a-thug program.
Yeah.
Where we just allow anything, and we don't hold people accountable. The exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are held accountable. That's called your prison sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come out, now this is where I can help you become a taxpayer. And this is how I talk to Democrats. We want to give somebody a second chance. Then I talk to Republicans and I say, and this will save you money.
Yeah.
And so you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Because it should appeal to Democrats and Republicans, because it's win-win.
I agree. And I don't think so. We always say that, with the prison system, our legal system, when we put somebody in jail or whatever it happens to be, that this is corrections, it's the Department of Corrections. I don't know if they're correcting anything, or it's a reform, and that they're reforming people. I don't think that they do that. I think that the political impetus has always been on, depending on, whoever's running, but what they're telling the voters is, we're going to be tough on crime, or we're going to put the people in jail and put them in prison. And that makes, we'll use grandma again, who we do want to, involve in the listening part of our conversation. But it makes grandma happy too, because she doesn't want to have criminals running around the streets. And so it's easy to scare grandma. So we put the criminals in prison. But then what? When I went to college, which was a Lutheran school, and it still is a Lutheran school, and we were talking about issues that if you're going to send the people that are in prison are also citizens, and it is our responsibility to make sure that if they are paying for a crime with their time, then they are in that time to be reformed, that we have a duty as a society to also reform them. And I think we have shirked that responsibility for decades, or maybe we never even did a good job to begin with. Does that make sense?
Well, when you think about it,
yeah.
When you think about it, our nation was founded on second chances. Everybody who came here was looking for a second chance from Europe or Asia or Africa. Mm-hmm. They all wanted to start over. One of the reasons I came down to Texas, I've come back here periodically to do my writing, because Texas was always a place of second chances. And everybody who came here in 1835, they used to leave signs on their farms in Tennessee, GTT, gone to Texas, because they couldn't make it in the East. And you can go Houston, you can go Travis, you go Crockett. Every one of them came down here to start over. And so did I. Mm-hmm. I start over my business, start over my writing. And everybody, I believe, needs a second chance at some time, somewhere, somehow. And that's all we're doing, is picking a certain class and say, we're an emergency room. These are people who are bleeding on my floor. How can I help them so they can live to become productive members and not just patients who cost me a fortune every day?
Without reconstruction, those houses that need the work will just continue to dilapidate, and so will the human that we're talking about. And without a little investment, a little time, or a lot of time, maybe, it is the same argument. You say, well, I want to preserve the beauty of this Victorian home. I want to preserve the beauty of this human spirit. Also, I want to improve the value of this neighborhood. And so again, you should make both sides happy in this quest. And so you must continue to receive support from both sides.
Well, I think what happened was the state opened up the program to the local courts. So the probation office, felony probation. So now the local court, the local judge can refer people to us instead of sending them to the county jail. So that means your sons, your daughters, your grandchildren who are picked up for, say, drug use, and that's a very common one
Mm-hmm.
because drugs changed everything in the rural communities, and so they would go to jail for $59 or $69 a day, but now they can be referred to our house for no cost to the county. And I calculate that we've saved the county directly $1 million.
Okay. Just
So
from
the state picks it up. We don't, but the state does.
there you go. Right. So then, so are these okay? So that's the type of folks that they have the opportunity to be referred for maybe lesser felony charges and that type of thing. But when they're coming out of prison, all types of crimes or certain types,
All types.
all types.
Yeah. Now we don't vet. The state would do the vetting.
Okay.
So it would be somebody they feel would be. Well, it used to be low risk, but what happened was the mental health issues became so common that we now have what we call a higher risk program. Not that they're more dangerous or their crimes are worse. They're just mentally unstable, and they're self-medicated. And when they're self-medicated, they do things that they wouldn't normally do, and they end up in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a recycling thing. And you can't say what the cause is because it's so intertwined that they're all causing one another.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me too. I think so. You referenced your book. You've written. You said you had an academic work that was referenced on your website, and a work of fiction, which is a little newer. So let's talk about that.
Well, I wrote my thesis was on the positive impact of reentry on the community, and I spent 3 years writing it. Great research work, and the 3 people who read it said it was a good read.
Yeah.
But there's a lesson in that because I went to city council and I had reams of data saying, folks, this will help the community. Recidivism can be reduced. We can make the community safer. And nobody gave a damn. Mm-hmm. They don't care because emotionally they didn't hear me. So what I learned from that was that if I go out and talk like I'm doing here about data, mm-hmm. nobody will hear me. So if I want to go beyond Good Samaritan Home, if I want to talk about real second chances on a nationwide level, how do I do that? And what occurred to me was, think of it like you're going on a cruise. And the captain said, everybody has to watch a safety documentary on lifeboat safety. Mm-hmm. It's required. And you'll say, there's no way. I can't believe I got to do that. I'm paying $700 for this trip. Mm-hmm. But if I said to you, we're going to have Jack and Rose, and they're going to be on the Titanic, and we're going to watch this for 2 hours, you'll say, great. And you'll have a Kleenex, so you're going to cry at the end when Rose says, I'll never let go, Jack. And that's what I did. I wrote a story about second chances. Mm-hmm. That's so emotional that people identify with it. And I've gotten, to date, I've gotten 48 literary awards for it.
Wow.
And most of those are for inspirational fiction because people are identifying with Daniel Robinson, the main character. And particularly today, in this age of anger and fear, mm-hmm. they want hope. And this book called Running as Fast as I Can mm-hmm. is about a boy who feels like he can never catch up because he was born behind everybody else. And a lot of us feel like my neighbor was wealthier. My neighbor over here had, he's a doctor, so his kids were already going to college before I even thought about it. Mm-hmm. They had advantages. What am I going to do? I can't catch up to them. Well, that's how I feel that way. So that's why I was so late in getting into my career, and my people in my houses are so late to get a second chance. And the book has sold 22,000 copies, which is unbelievably successful for an independent publishing company.
And independent publishing, who published it for you? Or did you do it yourself?
It was rejected by what I call traditional publishers.
Yeah.
They wouldn't look at it because I'm not John Grisham. Mm-hmm. I'm not Kristen Hanna. They want somebody who's going to make money out of the gate. So all I knew it was a good story. Mm-hmm. I spent 10 years writing it. I was convinced it would work, but nobody heard me. So I formed my own publishing company
Okay.
called Don Quixote Press, and I hired a publisher. Yeah, because you're always tilting
Yeah,
at
I
windmills,
get it.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm glad you caught that.
yeah.
But I hired a publicist. I hired an editor when I did the editing process, but then I hired a publicist, and she has been unbelievably helpful because she taught me how to do TikTok, Facebook, Substack columns. She taught me how to advertise. It's a lot of work,
Hmm.
but we've had tremendous response from readers who they I think out of a scale of 5 on Amazon, we're 4.6.
Wow.
So it's done extremely well because they've said, I I felt you were writing about me, and that's what I wanted. I'm just very, very pleased. Not that my skill is great. I wrote a story they could feel,
Hmm. And
and that's what I want.
and inspired by the many stories that you have interacted with
Yep.
in this time.
It's a very rough outline of my own life,
Okay.
but all the details are not. But it pulls from all of my people,
Hmm.
and it's definitely a fictional story. Think of like Forrest Gump.
Sure.
Forrest Gump had a limp. He had braces, and he learned how to overcome. And he went through the '60s through all these events, and and in the end, Daniel or Forrest dealt with sadness and joy.
Hmm.
Well, that was Daniel. He dealt with sadness and joy, and in the end, he found happiness, but always with a tinge of sadness, because no happiness is pure.
Right. Right. You.
And I think that's what people identified with.
It's called "I'm Running as Fast as I Can."
Running as fast as I can. Right.
Yep, running as fast as I can, and you can get it anywhere. So it sounds like you can get it on Amazon and anywhere books are sold. Or is that the best place, or where else?
Amazon's the best place. It's hardback, paperback, ebook, even Audible. And right now, I'm not. I don't care about the money. So we've been selling it on Kindle Unlimited for. If you're a member, it's free.
Hmm.
And we've been selling for 99 cents here, or a dollar here, $2 there, because I want people to read it and discuss second chances. I want them talking.
Hmm.
And so, I'm not going to get rich on this, but I already have a salary with Good Samaritan Home.
Hmm.
I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this so you and I can talk about second chances.
And anybody interested in making it a movie?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because in my ignorance and innocence, I signed up to be an extra in a movie this weekend.
Oh yeah.
Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson are filming a TV series on Apple called Brothers.
Okay.
So this casting company had my name. So they said, "Are you willing? We're going to go up to Austin. We're going to shoot it we're going to do a scene at a rodeo. So come on up and we'll pay you $80." So I went up there, and I swear acting has got to be the worst job in the world, because all we did for 12 hours was stand around and wait.
Yeah.
30 seconds of filming went into the can. And I'm sucking down on Tylenol like they're going out of style. and they finally broke up at 1:30 in the morning.
Hmm.
But, my back bailed out at 8 o'clock. I couldn't take it anymore. But at the end of the day, what I said was, if this is acting, this has got to be the hardest job in the world, because they had 100 people. They had tents and thousands of dollars they spent for at least a 30-second scene. I thought, wow. It's writing is so much easier, because I
Yeah.
just sit down at a typewriter, and as long as I have a $60 supply of ink, I'm fine.
Yeah, and you can do that almost anywhere, and like you said, and if an idea strikes you, any other projects in the works?
I'm working on the sequel.
Okay.
It takes up without giving a spoiler.
Hmm.
There's a death at the end of running, and it takes up after the death with the family and how they deal with that grief and how they move on. So Requiem is a remembrance of the dead, and but it deals with some real world issues. And uh, after writing Running, it took so much emotion from me. It was very hard to start again. But once I got back into it, I felt like I got my mojo back. So I'm excited to be doing it again.
Now I'm going to jump back to Good Samaritan. What is it? What is a half? This is not is a halfway. What's a halfway house? Is that do people call it that? Is that a
You have prison,
uh-huh?
and then that's the full incarceration, lockdown facility, and then you have freedom. But in between, you have a halfway home where you are required to be there, and it's still locked down. You cannot come and go,
Okay.
and that's why it's halfway home. Ours is probably a quarter way home. You're not required to be there. It's voluntary, so it's a cross between a shelter and a halfway house. But we don't do programming,
Okay.
so we're not a shelter as such because we don't take walk-ins, but we take direct referrals from the parole officer.
Okay. And
We're the good guys.
yeah, you're providing that house that is going to
Right.
get them onto the next thing. And what would you say the average time period is? I mean, you had referenced that it was, sometimes 6 months to a year or something like that. Is there, I guess, with 2,500 people that you've helped thus far, what would you say the average stay is?
Well, the state would track the exact numbers because they love numbers.
Yeah.
But the low risk program is 90 days with renewals. You just you need to show every month what you're doing, and the parole officer would approve an extension. So the average stay for that program is a year.
Okay.
Because realistically, you can't find work and a house in 30 days or 90 days. So a year is reasonable. But even then, we can extend it depending on your need. The hard to place program, the ones that are more difficult, they often stay, I'd say, a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Wow.
And their chances are tough because of their mental limitations.
They, it's hard for them to find jobs, and you don't do any. You're not doing any programming, so they're kind of out on. Are they working with the state or their parole officer? Are you helping them get jobs, or you're providing a place for them to live with some rules and discipline as far as like what the expectations are, a listening ear, and then they're expected to go out and.
Well, a lot. It's called independent housing for a reason.
Uh-huh.
So we don't do it for you, but if you say the county would have a reentry program that we cooperate with or partner with, and they would do the job training and they would do the job referrals. But if you choose not to go, we can't help you because you've chosen not to be part of that.
Okay.
And so there are some people that they're getting SSDI, and that's probably the best they're going to get because they've been on some sort of government assistance all their life. And that's, the prison is simply part of what they know.
Right.
It's unfortunate. I like to think we're in the recycling business, but sometimes some things don't recycle well.
Well, see, that's interesting perspective. You've been doing this for 25 years, and obviously you've been trying to help people for much longer than that. And it's just life lessons from having met and worked with so many people, and as the executive director overseeing so many people that are doing this good work. But you just said it yourself. Some things don't recycle well. So, has your sense of optimism been altered to some degree? Is there some cynicism about certain things that are, or a realism, or how has your I don't know if it's opinion, but your perspective changed since 2001 about the vast expectations?
I remember when I was first a minister, and I came to my first little country church, and I had this couple who was struggling with their marriage, and I tried to sit down with them and try to help them fix their marriage. And she basically said, "I've got a boyfriend. I don't give a damn." And Yeah, and that taught me a real good lesson that there are some people that you want to help them more than they want help.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I take this into our program is that I want to help you, but I'm not responsible for you. And all I can do is offer. And if you choose, if it's like a doctor says, if you choose to not take your medicine, it's not my fault. I'm sad to see you die, but it's not my fault.
Yeah.
And so I've had to become, to a degree, dispassionate. But that doesn't mean I don't have regrets. And I'm constantly editing, just like my book. I'm editing to see what can I do better. How can I better help somebody? And most of that is simply being a calm, listening ear. Not that you're non-judgmental, because you have to make judgments, but you try not to make judgments that are coming out of my own prejudices. I just try to be calmer.
Calmer and like and quieter when like listening makes you seem like a genius, right?
Yeah, that's right. If I'm quiet enough, people think I'm really smart.
Right, right. Well, I guess this is good for Ohio, particularly the Dayton area and the areas that you're in. Do they have similar programs throughout the state of Ohio, and what about the nation?
Nation I can't speak to, but definitely the state. We're one of many houses like this, and I give the state the credit. Being a bureaucratic, we tend to criticize bureaucracies and government agencies, particularly lately. It seems like people think that the bureaucracy is bloated and they're not doing anything. Truth is that I work with hundreds and hundreds of people who work for the government, and I find by and large they're dedicated, committed, trying to make a difference, and they work hard. And I give the credit to the government people I work with.
Yeah, that's a good point. And of course, with the shutdown that has just ended and all of that, it's been in the news for 40, 50 days, and prior to that, different things about shutting down different programs and all of that. And there is, look, I spent a long time in the military. There is room for expenditure reductions and things like that in certain programs. But this seems to me to be a winner across the board as far as helping, making good on the promise to citizens who have broken the law but are still citizens and have we have the responsibility to offer them reform, not just punishment, but the opportunity to reform, to remodel. I like that better. And this also improves, so to speak, the property value of the neighborhood when we do that with our community. You would think that would be something nationwide that people would be interested in pursuing. I know I am. I think that is you left one form of ministry, so to speak, for another, and in this one, it's very much a do something type of ministry, isn't it?
Well, I feel safer in prison than I do in most church board meetings. And I'm not trying to be critical of the church as such. Yeah. I'm critical of the church the way many times it's become ingrained in our traditions that have lost the real tradition, the rooted, because originally the church was extraordinarily socially radical. It was so radical that it was condemned and crucified for causing unrest and dissent, and it's like John Lewis calls good trouble. That's what I try to do. Good trouble.
Good trouble. Well, it sounds like you have been doing that for a good portion of your life, and I don't think it looks like you've got any signs of slowing down in that regard. And you've got a sequel forthcoming at some point for Running as Fast as I Can, with the kind of the Daniel Robinson story. Looking forward to that. And any idea of when that might be released, or it'll happen when it happens? It took 10 years to do the other one.
Yeah, well, I hope I'm smarter this time. And
Okay.
I like to think my first draft is actually about my third or fourth draft.
Okay.
But I really want to have it done in 2 years. But the truth is that I can write the story, but to write it well, that takes a lot of work to put the emotional layers in. And having been trained as an academic and as a journalist, I tend to be sparse and write too thin. So I try to make sure I describe the scene, describe the emotions, so that when you see Daniel, you'll feel Daniel. And that's the difference where you just don't, we call it the difference between showing and telling. If I tell you he went into the room, but if I show you how the room looked and how it smelled and how the sweat ran down your forehead because you were nervous looking around the room, then you could feel it. Mm-hmm. That's what I want to do.
All right. So what can the listener, the viewer of the Sunny Side of Life do if they want to help in either with a Good Samaritan mission or with this type of work, or how can they help in this type of this effort?
We don't need any direct help from anybody as far as donations or anything. But what I would like people to do, I would obviously love to have people read the book and even comment to me about their feedback. And I like them to apply the lessons. But more than important, I would like, particularly today with the economy, which I believe is going to go through some hard times, and there are people who are genuinely struggling outside of our comfort zone. And I would say, look for one person at a time and make a difference. And it might be just a simple gesture. It might be just offering somebody help across the street. Or if the guy in front of you seems to be struggling at the grocery line, maybe pay a bill. You both will feel better. Some little act of kindness. And make that day sunny. It sounds simple, but it really is effective.
Well, I love what you did there. You brought it right back to us. It's a great place, I suppose, to bring an end to our great conversation. You are the sunny side of so many people's life. Over 2,500 folks that you've helping as one person at a time, just like Reggie in 2001, yeah. and on and on and on and on. And I think that's great advice for all of us to try to be the sunny side of someone else's life. I appreciate what you're doing, Dr. John Graham of the Good Samaritan Home in Ohio, and also in Texas. That's where you're hanging out at this interview and doing some writing. I'm
hanging out here today.
Yeah.
You get my sunny side here.
There you go. That makes sense. Well, I sure do appreciate it. Thanks for being on the show, and thanks for being the sunny side of so many people's lives.
Excellent. I really enjoyed it, Troy. Thank you, brother.
When the shadows fall and doubts begin to creep, remember together we're strong, never weak. Lift your neighbor up with kindness every day. Let your actions speak the words you want to say.
The Sunny Side of Life is a weekly production about our life on the family farmstead here in Iowa, the liberties we prize, and the pursuits which make us happy. None of this is possible, of course, without Christ in our lives. For the Lord God is our sun and our shield. He gives us grace and glory.
Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life. Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the sunny side of your life in Christ be made evident unto you each and every day, and give you peace.